Okay, greetings to you all. I'm sorry that I'm not able to meet with you live this time. Had a conflict with a flight because I'm away meeting with our accreditor. So this is part of working at making a better education, better quality classes for all of us. But I am excited to go through a couple of things with you. I just finished reviewing where you're at academically and how some of those things are coming along. Things are looking good. I'm encouraged about your work. I think a number of you have been able to catch up. You've fallen behind, some of you a little bit. And so that's encouraging to see. And then as you're continuing on, I would encourage you to say if you see that if your grades are maybe hovering around in that like B range, expect that as we go forward with the semester, you're gonna get the rhythm of it a little bit, and things can can head upwards as we go. Now that it will get more challenging in other ways, but I think you've already gotten into Greek enough at this point to know decently well what to expect, how things are going to be. And I think that's should be a source of some encouragement for you. You're far enough in. This is what it's going to be like, and you're doing well with that. So I'm going to start off by reading a passage with you. Then I want to review a little bit from previous lessons. We'll just run through some things and get our head back around some ideas. And then I'll conclude, well, first I'll take you to our new lesson. I'll conclude by giving you some study suggestions for how to just improve the process with your study skills and hopefully to make it a little better. So let me get my window up here if I can. There we go. And I'll make it a little bit bigger. It's a bit of a new interface, but there we go. How's that? This is John 14. And so I'm just going to read down through this with you. I'm highlighting for you some of the pronouns as we go. So Philip is saying to him, Lord, show to us, this is one of our personal pronouns in this lesson, show to us the Father, and it will suffice for us or to us. It'll be enough for us or to us. Jesus is saying to him, for such a time I have been with you, or I am with you, and so we can flip this around. I am with you for so long a time, and you have not known me. There's another personal pronoun, me, Philip. The one who has seen me has seen the Father. How will you say, so you can see the you here, that's the subject. It's nominative, so it's a subject of the sentence. How will you say, show to us the Father? Let me make the text a little bigger. It might be easier, might be a bit easier to read as we go. So verse 10 continues on. Are you not believing, or do you not believe, that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? You can see this is the object of the preposition en. Remember we talked about, remember we talked about how these prepositions work. And one of the things we talked about was you have that preposition, messed myself up here. You have that preposition, and then you'll have after it the object of the preposition, and the object is going to be in the case that that preposition takes. Well, that's what you get here, don't you? So that I am in, or that the Father is in me. In me. The moi is dative to take the object of that preposition, me. Okay, the words which I, there's a personal pronoun, but the which, did you hear me translate that? Which, that's a relative pronoun. That's one of the things that we're talking about in this lesson as well. The words which I am speaking to you, I am not speaking from myself, but the Father, pater, I think you may, you haven't learned this yet, but pater as in paternalistic, paternity, so it means father. But the Father who is remaining in me, the Father remaining in me, is doing his works. You see how this is a genitive, his works, right? His works like that. Believe me that I, in the Father, and the Father in me, and you have to supply the verb. So believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. But if not, because of the works themselves, be believing. Be believing because of the works themselves. Now, this is a very specialized use of the pronoun, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but themselves, it's an intensive pronoun, and it just emphasizes the other word, the works word. Okay, continuing on, I'm jumping a couple of verses, but in that day, you will know that I am in the Father. You have to supply the verb. That in my Father, that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. I think I chose this, and I thought it was fun because if you just look down at, starting about here, mu down to humen, you have more pronouns than you have actually other words. And enough that it's almost a little hard to confuse, or hard to translate. So in that day, you will know this nominative to subject. You will know that you have to supply the verb, that I am in my Father, and you have to supply the verb, are in me, and I in you. Amazing statement. The one having my commandments and keeping them, that one, it's a kind of pronoun you haven't learned yet, but we'll learn it, is the one loving me, direct object, accusative. But the one loving me will be loved by my Father. Here you got that pronoun, or that preposition thing again, by. And remember, a preposition followed by its object. Its object will be in the case that that preposition takes. So by my Father. And I will love him, and I will reveal, or I will make myself manifest to him. All right, so there you go. Really a pretty interesting passage, pretty fascinating passage. And Jesus' words in this have a lot of depth and richness to them, much of which is connected to the complexity of Jesus speaking to the disciples regarding the Father. And so you have him and me and I. And all I would just do again, if I was going to close out this passage, is just the astonishing, the depth, the Trinitarian depth of that. So in that day, you will know that, and then this is the proposition, the phrase that blows me away, that I am in the Father. Okay, that's Trinitarian. So Jesus in the Father, that's a Trinitarian level relationship. And here's where you have to be careful because you don't want to draw a parallel here, but Jesus does in some way draw a parallel. And you in me, not a Trinitarian relationship, that's not it. And I in you, not a Trinitarian relationship. But I'm just trying to represent what the passage itself says. The passage does support a notion that Jesus is at least making some kind of comparison of some sort here. It really is, as I said, just quite astonishing. All right, that I use as my introduction for us to step back now, and let's do a little bit of review, as in, let's think for a little bit about the charts that you would want to know by now. So if I'm taking a look, here, and I'll go ahead and make this full screen. In this full chart of everything that more or less that we're going to learn across this course, there's a handful of things that you want to know and that you need to remember as we go down through it. Okay, I'll pull this out a little bit. There we go. And of those, this would be one of the key charts. So it's the present, there we go. It's the present active ending. So the OASE Amaneda Usi chart, which comes out as O luo lues lue luamen lueta luusi luamai lue luetai luamata luesta luantai. You've got to know that. We've also learned this chart, which is when we're working with the imperfect. The imperfect, eluan, elues, elue, eluamen, elueta, eluan, eluamen, elu, elueta, elueta, eluamatha, eluesta, eluanta. And then we did introduce the future, where you're putting in the sigma. So we had the luso forms. And we also introduced the aorist, where you have the elusa, elusas, elusa, and so forth. Okay, so you do want to know those charts. And if you need to go back and review, this might be a fine time to do it. And then the other thing that we have talked about would be the noun charts. And so that's in this territory. So here we're going down through these basic endings, the osu, oan, oion, ois, us, where you can see applied to a word, as well as the neuter, which is pretty parallel. You've not done the green yet, don't worry about that. But the purple here, on, u, o, on, and then the feminine, ace, ain, ion, isos. One other thing we've done here, well, I should mention articles. These articles you should know, or at least be able to recognize them. It's important, it is important that you be able to recognize articles when you see them. And then we have also learned or worked on the a-me forms. So not all of them, but I think these top two, a-me, a-esten, esmen, este, ac, amen, ain, amen, ete, asan. I think I misspoke earlier. I did include the future among the things that I was expecting you to know. And actually, on second thought, I don't think we've studied the future yet, which is fine. Okay, so you would want to know those forms. What we're doing this time around is adding another type of grammatical form now. So I talked about verbs there, I talked about nouns there. What I'm moving to talk about now is the pronouns. You've got a handful of different types of pronouns. So they would look roughly here are your types of pronouns: personal, relative, demonstrative, interrogative, indefinite, reflexive, reciprocal. You don't need to know all those yet. The ones that we're focused on in this lesson are just this set. We're working on the personal. So that would be first person, second person, third person. And then we're also working on the relative pronouns. And I went through this in your lecture just to make sure that you're kind of still there with what this does. Recall that a pronoun is just standing in place of a noun so that I don't have to repeat that noun over and over again. So, right, if I have to say Joel went to the store, Joel bought, well, what else would Joel buy? Cheese. Joel returned home, Joel ate the cheese, Joel enjoyed the cheese, Joel loves cheese. Brothers and sisters, Joel tells you, eat cheese. You get tired of that, and so what you end up doing is you're doing he, him, etc. His, all of that. That's what pronouns do. They're just standing in place of a noun. And so they're going to have we call it an antecedent. They're going to have the noun that they refer back to. And therefore, learning the pronouns just helps you kind of know knows what to help you know what to place where, what it's replacing, and that kind of thing. Okay, so that's the basic concept with the pronouns, like what is a pronoun. And for then working with the pronouns, you just need to know this chart. Here, I'll get it. Let me put this up for you in just a second. Yeah, there we go. Great. You want to know this chart, and I'll show you. Yeah, sorry, I'm skipping ahead a few things. Yeah, these two types of pronouns are the two that you need to know and be prepared with. So personal pronouns and relative pronouns. I'm just going to run down through those pronouns quickly for you. Again, I have the pre-recorded video, so you have it there. Probably I should adjust this chart so you don't see the emu, emoi, emme. Just if you want to look at the mu, moi, me, that's sufficient here. And the forms you want to learn, ego, mu, moi, me. Over on the plural side, hemes, hemon, hemen, hemos. Really important that you remember these have a rough breathing mark. And the thing that students always get mixed up on is whether this one has the hemes or the next one, which is the second, has the humes. So you see that in the second person, the plural has humes. In the first person, the plural has the hemes. They always get it mixed up. They always struggle with that. I struggle with it. You're totally normal if you do. All that. So how are you going to keep track of these? And my suggestion was and is me, as in the Greek or the English word me, M-E. You see the mu moi me has a m on the front of it. Ignore the emu; those are a different kind, like an emphatic kind. But just mu moi me, that's the M. The plural has the he, mes, hemon, hemen, hemas. That's the me, M-E. Whereas if I go over to this one, I get su, soy, sa. Well, I see the su. You see the first person, the singular nominative is sigma upsilon su. That's actually your key. Because in the singular, it's going to be s. And in the plural, it's going to be humes, humon, humen, humas. So su, right? Do you see that? Su, s for the singular, u for the plural. That's your key. So if you can do that, you won't have this problem, but lots of students historically do. They forget that this is hey mace, and then they can't remember which one's the first person, which one's the second, because they look so similar. And then the third, I'm going to the third person. The third person is actually, it turns out really easy. You just need to do out. Now, in order to help you remember that, kind of interesting, in English we have like automobile, automatic, that little auto means self. And that's one of the things that this third person personal pronoun can do. It can be a self, for himself, to himself thing. So that's where that'll help you remember it, hopefully. And then if you run down these, it's just out plus asu, o, an, oi, on, oisus. Just stick on the masculine endings. Stick on the feminine endings, a, ace, a, an, I, on, ice, a. Stick on the neuter endings, a, u, o, a, on, ois, a, no. It is important to remember here that these work like the articles do, where I drop off the nu. So it's not auton, it's auta, right? Drops off the nu. But they are still they are following what you would expect for neuter endings. So it turns out that I just gave you this whole massive chart for the price of out, and then you just put on your endings. That's one of my ideas as you get further in Greek. It's like, oh, it starts getting cumulative. Oh, I learned this. Oh, I just apply that. Oh, I just apply that too. It gets cumulative, it stacks up, and then you don't have to actually learn as much new content. That actually extends further into the next slide. So here's a huge, massive data, and you've got to memorize it all. The relative pronouns. And the encouraging thing with these guys is look at them. All I'm doing is taking my standard endings, asu, o, an, oi, on, oisus, a, se, and I, un, isas, a, u, o, a, un, oisa. Now you have to remember that it's a, not on. Do you remember that? Okay. But run down through it, and you've got rough breathing marks, and that's it. Now, notice rough breathing marks and an accent mark. It's going to matter to you, for instance, like let's say with the hey, feminine, then feminine singular nominative. If it's just hey without an accent mark, that's just an article. Hi without an accent mark is just an article. The article doesn't have accent marks. Relative pronouns do. So there's a handful of places here where you have to know and remember that relative pronouns have an accent mark. Anyway, that's the pattern with these. And it's accent or rough breathing mark plus accent mark makes relative pronoun. And for your purposes right now, later we'll talk a little bit more detail about how these relative pronouns work. For your purposes right now, just say, translate as who, whom, what, and you'll be fine. Your English brain will take care of the rest. Who, whom, what, that's your basic idea. Okay, that's your lesson there. As you go through Plummer, Plummer's got more content and detail. So as you're going through this lesson, he'll break some of this down. I'm just gonna, as I just run down through the lesson, essentially I need you to know this chart right here. The chart on the right side of the page. Let's see, I'm fairly sure I have a way to, somewhere in here, I have a way, yeah, there we go, I can do this. So the chart on this side, that didn't help. That chart on this side of the page, there you go. You'll need to know that chart. All right. And then you also need to know this chart right here, which is the relative pronoun chart. So that chart, I need you to know that one. He talks in here about two other kinds, and so he talks about the emphatic use, as in he himself said. What's going on with these? Actually, skip the emphatic. The emphatic basically is when I don't need a subject, but I put the subject in anyway. So like if I just say is eating, in Greek that already means he is eating, but if I put autos is eating, autos, este, then it's a he is eating. So that would be the emphatic. If I didn't need the subject, but I went ahead and said it, su agapes. Su already says you. Agapes already says you are loving. But I say su, and now you are loving. It just kind of like enforces it a little stronger. Okay, that's the emphatic. But the intensive, the idea of these goes where I have the autos, and it's not there just to mean he. And the detail to notice here is just he says it's always anarthrous, meaning it never, right here, now I guess I have to highlight it a different way. It never has an article. Okay, so if it's not an article, there's no article before it, it's always anarthrous, lacking an article, and you have an autos form right before, so you have like no article, autos, and then theos. It'll be God himself. Down here, if I do have the article, in this case down here, in that case, it's going to be translated same. So here, when the article directly precedes it, and so if I had like ha autos theos, ha autos theos, then in that case, I would translate it same. I think just trying to remember that would help for right now, and you are going to get that one mixed up as well. So here's what I do. I think article A, same. Same, A, you hear the A in there? Same. Article A, same. And then, if that's the A for same, then the other one is no article. And so some way that you want to remember that, or the way I just remember, I know that the A goes with same, so the other one has to be the other. Okay, that's really it that I have for that lesson. I had a couple of fun charts going back when you talked about prepositions a little while ago. So I thought I would pull some of those up because I was just so proud of my charts that I didn't want you to miss out on those. So there are some fun charts here for Greek prepositions. Here, this one is the least fun because, I don't know, it doesn't look so much, you'll see what I mean when you get here. But here, this is my set of prepositions, Greek prepositions, and it's showing like into or through, down, and all that. The ones that are a little more fun are, Dr. Andrew used the mouse thing. Once you get a lion involved or a Greek or a mouse involved, it's a lot more fun. So you can see the different adventures with a lion. And I'll just keep on going with this, but you can always come back to this frame in the video. So here's another set. Here's the mouse adventure. And so in this case, the mouse is going under or through or toward or around or upon or above. I think I might have one more. Nope, that's it. That's all I had there. All right, so hopefully some of that sticks for you. Prepositions don't need to be hard. Anyway, I think it's just kind of getting used to them. The biggest thing students struggle with the prepositions is that whole concept of like the preposition plus the case. And the case of the noun, you don't need to translate of, to, for. That's not the way that works. The case of the noun is kind of swallowed up by the preposition. That's the biggest thing students struggle with. All right, last thing I was just going to do here, and I'm going to adjust. Let's just try adjusting a little bit the way we do this. And here we go. So your study habits. And so I was just going to give you a little bit of encouragement as far as the study habits go as you're keeping up. And I think it relates actually to like your weekly schedule and how you want to do the weekly schedule. Can I encourage you to try this? Every day you ought to be reviewing your vocab. Every day. And you're not going to succeed at vocab without cards. You just need to have cards. There's no way around it. You just need to have cards. Every day, review your vocab with cards. What that looks like, well, I'll come back to the vocab in just a little bit about what that looks like. But every day you ought to be doing your cards. Every day you go through them. Okay, now on a weekly schedule, I really think you ought to do this and get into this rhythm. If you have another rhythm, I'm not like enforcing and tell you've got to follow my rhythm. I kind of think you should. I would encourage this rhythm because I think this is probably your best shot at success. I would say after class, every Friday, Saturday, you're starting into a new cycle. So as soon as you can, Friday, Saturday, if not Monday, you've got your life schedule, but somewhere in there, early in the new cycle, watch the recorded video. So you're going to have your live class and that. Pretty soon after, watch the recorded video for the next class, the recorded lecture for the following, and that's on YouTube. Jump in there and get there. And then start memorizing that new content, right? Because in that video, I'm going to tell you this and this and this, and you need to memorize that new content and know it. Monday or Tuesday, you ought to read through the new lesson and take notes on that lesson. So I suggest maybe watching the video first. You could, of course, you can do both. Scan the lesson, then watch the video. But Plummer probably gives too much information, and it's overwhelming. And then guys are like, I need to memorize a lot. No, you don't need to memorize it. There's like very specific things you need to memorize. Plummer gives tons more. So read through the new lesson, take some notes, highlight some things. I think if you watch the lecture first, the Plummer lesson won't be so overwhelming. Wednesday, I think you ought to kind of go through, review everything, give it another read, glance through the lecture notes that you took, and come to class with some prepared questions. Because in class, that's where we can interact and work with some things. Okay? So kind of get your questions prepared and be set to go so that Thursday, when you join the live class, it's prepared and solid. And then on Friday or Thursday evening or Friday morning, and I'd say as soon as possible. I say Thursday evening, you've gone to time, it's late already, I know. But maybe Thursday evening, if you're staying up late anyway, take the quiz. Now, I think that's your whole thing, is you're building up towards taking the quiz. And right after the live lecture, that's the sharpest you're ever going to be. So just jump in there and take the quiz or Friday morning, and then start into the next cycle. Friday afternoon or Saturday or Monday morning, start into the new cycle with the next lecture video. Okay, and then I want to talk about vocab cards because that's a huge part of success in Greek. So let me talk about vocab study methods. I said do it every day. I don't have time for that. Okay, so try this in terms of vocab study methods. Once a week, and again, you set that for Saturday, Monday, you go through all your cards. Every card. But every card you need to set it aside. Once you know a card, don't keep on reviewing it. You're wasting your life. Life is too short for that. Once you know a card, it's out. Now, you still want to review it once a week because it'll get rusty. But once a week, go through them all. So once a week you do all the cards, and then the ones that go into this, over here, this is my known pile, this is my unknown pile. All right, so I knew these ones, put them on that pile, put them on a shelf, come back to them next week. You don't need to work on those. These are the ones I didn't know when I went through them all on Monday. Now, every day, those are the ones you're doing. Don't mess with these. It's on the pile. And this pile will get bigger the longer you get into Greek. But do you need to review theos and anthropos and kai at this point? Logos? Those ones go away, right? This is your new pile that you're actually working on. And that's what you're doing every day. And the everyday pile, every time you go through it, you do the same sorting. Now, this is your pile for the week, so you probably still review it every day anyway. Unless you if you got to one, you're like, I've known this 4 days in a row, you can add it to the pile over there. But this is your main pile for the week. You go through it, and when you know one, you put it in the known pile, and you slide it to the other side of the table. And you go through these, and this pile, as you study it this week, is getting smaller and smaller. So on Monday, I start out, on what I did everything, all the cards I've learned so far in this course, like 140 cards or something, and like 30 of them went over there. Hopefully more, maybe 40 or 50 went over there. Okay, so now I've got my pile. Great. That pile, I go through them, and maybe 10 of them, when I do them, like, yeah, I know that one. Set it there. but keep on working on this pile. Okay, now I know that, set it there. So, and each time you go through the whole thing, you missed one, it goes in the bad pile. That means you're going to need to do it again today, later, and you keep on working that pile today. So for me, my vocab study, I would sit here and go through this pile until I had been able to remember every word in it. Now, when I got down to the end, I had like 3 words that were the really terrible ones that I could never, function words usually. Those are the worst. Te, eke, something like that. Hapu. You're like, what? All right, so you're looking at, you can't ever remember these. I might get to the last 3 and I turn them over, and honestly, it's just kind of like, I have 3 cards to go through. Like, of course I remember because I just looked at it 3 seconds ago. Okay, whatever, that was today. Next day, bring those back and I go through and I do the same process. I get it wrong and put it in the bad pile until I can get this pile all the way down. You go through the entire pile, going through all the cards you knew. Do that all week. And I just think that kind of discipline, if you can do that repeatedly every time, try to make this go, there it goes. You can do that repeatedly every time, then consistency day by day, every day is going to be your key to making this work. And it's doable. It's just keeping up with it. All right, I'm encouraged by how you guys are doing. Really proud of you and grateful for you. And I'm impressed with just how God's helped you in your learning so far. Keep it up. If you're behind, then definitely go back and do a little catch up to make sure you get back on track. But what I'm seeing looks good. So I'll let Elijah continue on with the next part of the lesson, and just reach out to us if you have questions or problems.